Good morning, everyone, or good noon, I guess. My name is Benjamin. Today we're live streaming. We're going to be covering, I think, one or two presidential scenarios. That I think will be fun. Good. Let me pull up chat. Yep, I can tell you we're here. Anyway, we're gonna do one or two presidential election scenarios. Then I'm kind of gonna do a preliminary update to the Senate map, and then we're gonna talk about the House map. And one thing I forgot to do was there we go, 538. Wow, brings up the calculator. Nice. Forgot to bring this up earlier, but we'll look at this in a bit. There we go. So let's choose a random Democrat. Let's choose Sanders because everybody, for some stupid reason, people still really think Sanders could win. Not only win, but win in a landslide. And this isn't to, badmouth Sanders or anything, but let's actually talk about this in a logical, reasonable manner, right? Let's be fair to Sanders, okay? Even though I really don't think he would win. Looking at the primary results from 2016, yeah, no, that's not my type of thing, okay? Nixon Kennedy, that's not my type of thing. That's an LTE thing, and he can do whatever he wants on his channel, okay? And I think that's probably why he's so popular, is he's willing to do some of that type of stuff. But that's not me. I'm maybe I'm a bit too serious for my own good, but whatever. There are a few jokes that I might do. Like I might, you can leave it in there, buddy. Like I might do, Pinochet as a Republican and Joseph Stalin as a Democrat, just for the lulz. But at least those are real people. Anyway, so let's talk about this. Sanders, he markets himself as a socialist, but in America, that I guess would be progressive. Charlie Baker and Kamala Harris, that would be an interesting one. I have to think about that. Oh, I'll come back to that one because that might be a good just filler if I decide to do that. I like that. But let's talk about Sanders first. He markets himself as a socialist, even though in America he's, it would be called a progressive Democrat. And the other thing is he's not really a socialist. He's what political scientists would call a social democrat, someone who believes essentially in what America has now, but with a lot more welfare. And when I say a lot more, I think he'd even be pushing it. Yeah, I mean a ton more in social programs that among the youngest generation are extremely popular for various reasons that I personally think they shouldn't be popular for, but whatever. See, what else? He's old as all get out. No, I don't think the U.S. would fall into a civil war. We're nowhere near the idiocy that caused an actual civil war. And there are a few other things that I don't think would sell to the general public overall. Remember, he is extremely left wing for a Democrat. Sanders makes Obama look like a liberal Republican, essentially. Okay? And that should tell you something. And his worst primary performances were in the Deep South. Now I'm including Virginia in this because he lost the state by like something like 70 to 25 or something stupid like that. He lost Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri pretty heavily. He didn't do too well in the Sun Belt, except for Nevada, where some people thought maybe he did win. But he didn't do too great in the Desert Southwest. So he would have a lot of issues when you think about it. You know? Because a lot of the areas where he would need to perform extremely well in order to make up for the losses here, I don't think he'd be able to get enough electoral votes. So let's actually knock off states that for sure would go to both candidates, okay? Now, I'm not going to, and after reviewing, well, I'm going to go ahead and mark any state that would be considered reasonably competitive. There's no way he'd even be competitive in Texas. Okay, there we go. He definitely went Illinois. New York would, while it would be a little more competitive because there's no home state advantage for the Democrat there, it still wouldn't be that competitive. We're going to go ahead and give each candidate their dang it, the District of Maine. Reasonably likely for these. We'll talk about the statewide in a bit. Basically, every southern state would be very heavily in favor. I think a lot of the conservative Democrats. Hey, JJ. Yeah, no, the U.S. one is not going to fall into a civil war. I'd even be willing to say North Carolina would be pushing 5% for Trump. Florida is just too moderate for Sanders to win, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Missouri wouldn't even be close. Indiana, I'm just going to assign that as leans Trump. I don't think I'd be confident enough to say it would be anything more than a 5-point advantage for him, just because the state is moving more towards the Democrats anyway. So we've essentially got a very similar slate of swing states to 2016, except North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Arizona. I don't see enough of an argument for Sanders to perform there, especially with his weaknesses in the desert Southwest and the Deep South. Florida's a bit weird because part of it definitely counts as the South. The other part is retirement city. So let's go through. Let's start with New Mexico. I think Sanders would win, but it would be closer than it needs to be. I'm talking probably around 5%. So we'll put it here, 5-6% max of a margin for him. Minnesota, I think he would perform fairly well in the Rust Belt, and that's kind of backed up by. I'm even going to give him Wisconsin, and that's kind of backed up by his primary performances. Clinton shouldn't be. Honestly, I wouldn't prosecute her just because at this point, really, you're going to prosecute a 70-year-old woman and probably throw her in prison, which is going to essentially kill her because of the amount of stress that entails. I think that'd just be ridiculous. I get she did. I get she definitely committed at least some form of crime, but the problem is at a certain age, you just have to say it's not worth it to prosecute these people, because the amount of stress that criminal proceedings cause on people would be enough to kill most elderly folk. Anyway, so let's go to Nevada. I'm going to give that one to Trump by like 2 or 3 points, because Sanders, while maybe he's popular amongst the Democrats, most moderates probably wouldn't vote for him unless the economy is really bad or Trump dips below, say, 35% approval. For the simple reason that Sanders is so far to the left of what Americans are used to, it just doesn't make sense. And also, Trump is the incumbent. The only reason these states would flip is because Sanders is extremely popular up there, and these states do have a history of voting for Sanders-type candidates. I'll come back to Iowa. Ohio, though, that would probably go for Trump, but it would be much narrower than in 2016. I don't think Sanders would be able to pull that second congressional district, but I think he'd be able to keep it within 10. And this is revising a lot of my thoughts on what happened in 2016. I thought Trump won it handedly in 2016, but I was very wrong about that. Gingrich, no. So let's come back to Iowa. Well, that was an accident. Well, that's the thing. Sanders needs to win 26 votes out of 34, and Trump only needs to win 13. I'm going to go ahead and say Sanders would keep a hold of Maine statewide vote and probably win New Hampshire ever so slightly. I think there's a bit of New England favorability. Now, that is an interesting fact. Neat. So it's a bellwether county for the state. I think Trump would be able to maintain Iowa just barely by like 1 or 2 points. It'd be closer than Ohio. I think that's because Iowa is a little bit more swingy than the nation as a whole and the rest of the Midwest. So essentially, Sanders would have to win, from this point, he would have to win both Colorado and Virginia. Trump could get by with either one. And here's the thing. Sanders, I don't think, would be able to pull off the victory here in Old Dominion. He's just not popular enough amongst Democrats. And I think a lot of Democrats, especially even the ones who do actually vote Democrat and say Montgomery County, Roanoke, and that's not Roanoke County, that's city of Roanoke. Virginia has this weird thing where cities can become incorporated and all that. Virginia Beach, he definitely wouldn't be able to pull off the win there. He might lose Loudoun County, maybe Prince William County. And there are a few other counties that have been at least not reliably Democrat, but had moved towards the Democrats. I just don't think he'd be able to pull off. Virginia, kind of like their moderate Republicans, and then the party started moving a bit more to the right. How about Lynchburg? Lynchburg is weird. I've been there once or twice, but I haven't been there enough to get a truly good vibe of of the city. But Lynchburg is, I don't want to say super swingy. I haven't actually checked what Lynchburg has done in a long time, to be honest with you. I don't know. And I don't think, and that's the thing about a lot of these places in Virginia, like Lynchburg, Petersburg, Christiansburg, Salem. Oh, Salem votes Republican anyway. James City, Williamsburg, Virginia Beach. Is a lot of these cities are very moderate Republican cities, or if they're not moderate Republican, they're just moderate in general, because they have a lot of blue dog Democrats who are essentially very conservative Democrats who just like some social policies. They don't like a lot of social welfare, but they don't mind a tiny bit like the New Deal. They just don't think it needs to be extended a lot. Essentially, blue dog Democrats are maybe a slight bit more conservative than what FDR was, but they're nowhere near. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. Yeah, in that case, Lynchburg, there's no way in hell Bernie Sanders would win that. For one, Liberty University is Liberty University is pretty conservative in a lot of respects. They they allow campus carry by their students. Unlike Old Dominion, which only allows for guests to carry. And those are the only two universities in Virginia that even allow carry on campus. Yeah, I don't think Lynchburg in that. Yeah, now that I remember, Lynchburg probably wouldn't. I don't think Sanders could win in Virginia if he can't convince even a reasonable percentage of Democrats to vote for him in the primaries. I just don't see it. And Colorado, Colorado also has a lot of reasonably moderate people, has a lot of independents. They like their weed, but they also like, a lot of other conservative stuff. But it's very strange. Hey, Wade, how's it going? It's great to see you. Yeah. So this is kind of what I would expect a Sanders-Trump presidential election to look like. Doesn't really matter who the vice presidential nominee is. It might be enough to flip Iowa, but I don't think it'd be enough to change the result of the election. And of course, any state in pink could go the other direction, and any state in these slightly or light blue could go towards Trump or Sanders. And any of these slightly darker shades could become a lot closer. But this is kind of what I would expect a Trump-Sanders election to look like, just because. We're going to go ahead and do one more. Pull up a blank map. Let's choose. Let's choose Booker. I'll actually come back to that because I want to update that soon, because Mike Braun has been performing fairly well in Indiana. Before, I was looking at polls and just kind of calling it a true toss-up, but I always err on the side of an incumbent. What, you thinking Doug Jones? We're going to go ahead and no, we're not doing Hillary Clinton. She's not running. I'm going to try and go through this one a little bit more quickly. I think Booker would just be a sour taste in the mouth of Democrats because he's almost like he's like Clinton in a lot of ways. He's a very corporate Democrat, if that makes sense. And sure, he has some charisma and would be able to hold on to a lot of I just don't think he'd actually be able to pull that victory off. I think he'd probably hold on to Minnesota. I don't think he'd be able to pick up Michigan, though. He's just too corporate, and, well, maybe he has some progressive credentials. I'm not sure it's really enough to shake him having a lot of corporate ties. He'd probably still win Virginia. And I'm not even sure he could hold New Hampshire, though. I think it would just convince that second district to go a little more heavily to Trump. So I could expect something like this for Cory Booker. Exactly, yeah. Booker is very uninspiring as a candidate. That was the word I was looking for. Goodness gracious. I can go back. We'll go ahead and do a quick 2024 prediction. Unfortunately, I can't do district splits. And we'll go ahead and go with the Republican. I think would probably be the most likely, or is currently the front runner for the Republicans in 2024, which is actually Nikki Haley. The last time I checked, at least. And we'll go ahead and do her versus Kamala Harris. I'm going to go ahead and just fill in those states. I think by 2024, Colorado will kind of be a for the Democrats. Nikki Haley would be a lot more popular in Utah, so it wouldn't even be remotely close to competitive. I think Nikki Haley would be able to hold on to Texas just because she's better. She's better for the the reset takes it to a filled-in map. So I actually have to clear this map manually, which sucks. But Nikki Haley is just a good candidate for the South, so I really don't see Georgia and North Carolina flipping for that reason. That said, I don't think she's as credible in the Midwest as, say, a Trump would be, or a Mike Pence, or essentially any Midwestern Republican. Don't think she'd be able to do that. I'm not even going to bother with the main split. So we'd have a relatively normal slate of swing states. Arizona, we'll go ahead and give Nevada to Kamala Harris. We'll come back to Arizona. Virginia, I think, would be essentially too far gone for the Republicans. I think Iowa and Ohio would stay with the GOP, though, just because they've been moving in that direction anyway. But also, I think Nikki Haley would be a lot more traditionally what these states would vote for anyway. Wisconsin by 2024, I think, would be mostly in the Republican column, though it could easily still flip back, but it'd kind of be like Virginia in 2016 for the Republicans. The state they're hoping to get back, but they just can't. Especially if Nikki Haley chose Scott Walker as her vice presidential nominee. Minnesota would probably hold on for the Democrats. Michigan, too. It really comes down to these three states: Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Essentially, Nikki Haley would need to win Florida in order to have a shot. Kamala Harris would need Florida or both Pennsylvania and Arizona. And here's the thing: I don't think Kamala Harris would be able to win both Pennsylvania and Arizona. Probably Pennsylvania would be the state she wins. Arizona, and it all comes down to Florida, obviously. And this is the thing: Florida tends to flip parties after 2 terms of one president, but they'll vote for an incumbent. So in '92, they voted. It's so weird. They vote for the opposite party of the sitting president if the president's a lame duck, and then they vote for the incumbent, and then they flip parties if there's a lame duck. So it kind of goes in streaks. So judging by that, Florida would vote for Kamala Harris, and that would make her the winner. But Nikki Haley is much closer to the center than Kamala Harris, so that would mean she would win. So I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. You guys can debate that in the comments, whether Nikki Haley or Kamala Harris would win that, because there are reasons that both of them could win it, and whoever wins that wins the election. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick update of the Senate map. After looking at it, yeah, Mike Braun actually looks like he could definitely flip that state. And that's really the only real change I have to make, though I've seen polls with Dean Heller ahead. I don't think it's enough to change my thoughts on the state of Nevada as a whole. So that's kind of really just a quick one for you guys. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and actually go to the House map, because that's the last thing I want to do today, is go through and update the House map. I'm going to reset the map. And we're going to go state by state. First, I want to look at Alabama. Yeah, that all looks reasonable. Alaska, yeah, that's reasonable. Arizona. Yeah, that one tends to vote Democrat anyway. Look at the Phoenix area. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4 to 5. Yeah, that kind of actually makes a lot of sense given the current political climate and all that. Let's go to Arkansas. Yeah, that all makes sense to me. California, let's go to the LA area. 48 is currently held by a Republican. They're all Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and rate that as she's going to keep it. She's an incumbent. Especially that long term of a Republican or incumbent. Go up to San Francisco Bay. I'm going to flip the 10th. And the 25th, I'm also going to flip. Just because those aren't as long term. Those aren't held as long as the other two. So that, in my opinion, makes a little bit more sense. Let's go to the Denver area. This seat, I'm going to, well, who holds this seat? I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Democrats, just because it is a Democrat year. Yep, Connecticut makes sense to me. Delaware, duh. Florida, there's one toss-up seat. And that's 26th. And I think he'll hold on just barely. Okay. But I think that's mostly because he's a Cubano. If Sanders was president, well, you can kiss the Democrats' chances of winning Congress back away by a significant margin. As a matter of fact, I would expect the Republicans to maybe even get filibuster-proof majority and a large majority in the House. Let's hop on up to the Peach State. Look at the Atlanta area. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Karen Handel should hold her seat. You know what's really weird is that this holds most of Fayette County, which is pretty Republican from my time living there. Yet it's split between essentially 3 districts, 2 of which are Democrat, even though most of the county votes Republican. But it is what it is. Yeah, that I don't see any real changes to that. Hawaii won't change. Idaho has 2 districts that won't change. Illinois has 1 or 2 somewhat competitive districts. Yeah, the pros rate this as leans Republican. I would be inclined to agree. And then this one's weird that they have this rated as toss-up, even though it's in southern Illinois, which tends to go Republican. I'll go ahead and keep that as Republican just because I think that makes a little bit of sense, especially with the incumbent running. Let's go to Indiana. Yep, that I don't think is ever going to change. Iowa, I'm actually going to rate this as leans Democrat. Kansas, yeah, I don't think that's ever going to change. I'm surprised that. Okay, whatever. Let's go to Kentucky. Yeah, I think the 6 makes sense. Louisiana. I did just show you the Senate. What state is Eric Greitens? Yeah, Greitens in. Yeah, I don't think that'll change. Maine, yeah, I don't see any of that changing. Maryland, yeah, that state's pretty baked in stone. Massachusetts, that's not going to change anytime soon. Michigan, hey, we actually have a district we can look at. The 11th, and I'm actually going to flip this one to the Democrats. Minnesota is so weird. Everyone has this state rated as a toss-up. You know what? I'm going to rate the second as leans. I can't do that. You know what? I'm going to err on the side because I do agree that should stay. I'll lean that as Democrat. Minnesota is such a weird state. People actually think, a lot of people reasonably think that the Republicans could actually win control of the state, but I don't know. Mississippi won't change. Missouri, I don't really see a reason to go further into that one. Montana, I don't see that one changing. Nebraska, really only the second district could flip, but I think that's too much of a lift. That said, I don't see anything changing in Nevada. New Hampshire, yeah, that should stay where it is. Jersey, well, both of these I expect to go Democrat. We just looked at Nebraska, didn't we? New Mexico, yep, that'll stay mostly the same. New York, both of these districts could flip, and it is in New York. I'm going to go ahead and actually flip them. Let's go to North Carolina, where we actually have a competitive district that's held by a Republican. And I actually think it's reasonable that that one could flip. Wow, it looks so much better than the old map. North Carolina was gerrymandered all to hell. North Dakota is not going to change. Let's look at Ohio. 12 is an open seat. The pros have it as leans Republican. I think since it's, well, then again, it's going with the general, so maybe the Republicans will be able to hold it. Oregon, yeah, that was to be expected. Pennsylvania has a few competitive seats. Yeah, Connor Lamb is not going to win the re-election there. Pennsylvania, of course, as we all know, had to redraw its map. And I really don't know. Yeah, this is super weird. Okay. In a Democrat year, I'm going to go ahead and put those there. And since he's an incumbent, I'll go ahead and put him, that is being won by the Republicans. But that puts it at 9 districts and 9 districts. Pennsylvania, of course, being a swing state, so that actually makes sense. South Carolina doesn't have anything truly competitive except this wacky district. South Dakota is one district. We'll look at Tennessee, which, yep, that wouldn't change ever. Texas, where there's actually some reason where there's actually a chance something may flip. And looking at it, Pete Sessions, yeah, that looks right. John Culberson, I'm actually going to flip this one to the Democrats. Then we go to Central Texas, where you got, oof, okay. Will Hurd, since this is a fairly rural district, even though it is, you know, does extend to a lot of Democrat areas in this part of the state, specifically on the border mostly. I think Will Hurd will be able to hold his district, but just barely. Utah, Mia Love is in some danger just because Salt Lake, but she will probably hold on to that. Vermont only has one seat. Then we can go to Virginia. And Barbara Comstock is the incumbent in the only really competitive district. I live in this district, the 9th, which that is extremely safe for Morgan Griffith. Yeah, I agree. That is very weird. Tom Garrett, Dave Bratt, Comstock. I don't really see any of these districts flipping. 4 and 3 look pretty safe in my opinion. Barbara Comstock is the only one who probably will lose or change. So I'm actually going to go ahead and flip 10th to the Democrats, and yep. So it's essentially so yeah. Republicans still hold on to the congressional delegation, but it's yeah. This is a pretty rural part of Washington, if I remember correctly. This part is mostly islands in Seattle. So that kind of does throw a little confusion, but I think Dave Reichert will be able to hold on. Oh, okay. No, the Puget Sound is here. Yeah, they really screwed with the map. Anyway, let's go to Wisconsin. Wow, they expect Paul Ryan. Well, I had that as that before. Now that Paul Ryan is no longer running, I actually expect that seat to flip. Yeah, I agree. That is very strange about 2 incumbents running in PA 14. And essentially, Wisconsin would be tied delegation. And we'll just look at Wyoming for posterity's sake. And then we'll go out, zoom out to the entire states. There we go. And not many changes. And Republicans still hold, but it's only 5 seats, and really it's not a very stable majority, but it's technically a majority. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream with one little thing, since JJ did ask for it, and I don't want to leave him too far in the dust. I'm going to reset the map, and we're going to go with a blank map, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun for if this is the last thing I'm going to be doing, Michael Jackson. If a Democrat, if a Democrat were in the White House instead of Donald Trump. That's interesting. So I'm just going to do this. I think it would be reasonable to say that the Republicans would probably easily hold on to every seat they currently hold. So that they wouldn't be able to win California or Washington or Vermont or any of these states. They wouldn't be able, well, actually, with Bob Menendez, they probably would be able to flip that one. Wouldn't be able to flip Delaware or Maryland. Virginia, they would have flipped it in 2017 with the special election, and they likely would keep that seat in 2018. You Democrats could probably easily kiss goodbye to North Dakota, Indiana, Missouri. The special election for Minnesota Senate seat after, now this is assuming most Senate Democrats remain in their seats and most of the same events still happen. By the way, Alabama would still be in Jeff Sessions' hands, so you can actually make this a +1 as well. Minnesota would probably have both seats because it's a double barrel year. Because I would expect the scandal to still kick out, what's his face? Al Franken. Actually, I think Angus King would stand a chance of losing unless he agreed to caucus with the Republicans. Joe Manchin could probably say goodbye to his Senate seat. Bill Nelson, too, especially with Rick Scott running. I think Renacci would be able to beat Sherrod Brown in the event of because it would definitely be a red wave year. Pennsylvania, I think, would still hold on. Same with New York. Michigan is weird. I'm going to go ahead and leave that for Debbie Stabenow. Tammy Baldwin, I don't think would be able to hold on to her seat. I'm not sure about John Tester being able to hold on to his, and Heinrich would have a tough road, but he'd be able to keep it. So if the Democrat, this is only situation where the Republicans could actually win a majority is if the Democrat were in the White House in D.C. And I think that I know Klobuchar is very popular in Minnesota, but double barrel elections tend to produce the same party in both seats. And I don't see it not being a double barrel. So it would be very weird. So, yeah. But as it stands right now, what I'm looking at is this for being the map, and I'm actually going to add both of these colors back, and put everything back with my gradients and all that because I like my gradients. There we go. I think that's where I had all my, no, that's where I had all my gradients. There we go. That's where I have my gradients. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm going to see you guys next time. By the way, next Sunday, I will not be streaming as well as the Sunday after that. Next Sunday, I've got some business in Roanoke and the Sunday after that and maybe the week Sunday after that. So next three or four Sundays, I'm not going to be able to live stream. A few of those are because I'm visiting family on the other side of the state for Independence Day and to take care of some stuff down there, help them prepare for a move. And next Sunday is because I have business in Roanoke that's going to take up my entire day. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye.